Denny Jiosa. How you been,
John
man?
Von Bane.
it's
John
been
Von Bizzle.
it's been way too long, man. Way
Yeah,
too
it
long.
has been too long. I still have quite a few records left, of the CDs of the trio. And
Yeah.
I still, what year was it we did that? I guess that's
Oh
been about
gosh.
10 years ago now. Eight years ago, something
Probably
like
about 8 because I was fat when we did it, and
that.
I just started losing weight like right after that record came out, so it was about 8 years ago.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's a great record. I still get comments. I don't know if you do, but I still get comments and people go, I love this record. I put it on and still listen to it. I don't think that record got a fair shake, but
No,
anyway, it's called On The Edge in case anybody's interested.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, oh yeah,
yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, it's a great record. Some great talent on there with you and John.
Well, for people who don't know you, give us a lowdown. Give us some background.
Background on me?
Yeah.
Well, after getting out of the penitentiary,
get used to it, folks.
Hey, you know what? If there's any time we need laughter, it's right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Stuff going on. So
yeah.
Well, I've become an older guy now, John. So I've been playing a long time, and I'm best known, I guess, in the smooth contemporary jazz realm of this business. Get some airplay on Straight Ahead and New Age and Fusion. I'm kind of all over the place. But anyway, I've got now, including our project, eight records out. I just put out my newest one about a year ago called MUEVE Tu CUERPO.
Great record.
Great
record.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. And I worked long and hard on that record. That was a record I wanted to do for a long time because it's me in Latin. I love Latin.
Yeah.
music.
When I heard it right away, I was like, yeah, this is what he needed to do for sure.
Yeah. I can't stop writing Latin rhythms. I don't know. I just love the flavor of Latin music and the vibrance of it and the people, the energy that the people have.
Because playing live with you, that vibe's always there,
That's what everybody says. I mean,
yeah.
And it's not something I think about anymore. It's just in me. It's just part of me, And in fact, John, if we go way back, I remember the first time I heard Antonio Carlos Jobim, and I was like head over heels in love with that music. I heard that music, I went, oh my gosh! And then of course I became a Santana fan, and multiple. Yeah.
So how's the writing process go for you? Because I know for me, like right now I'm writing, and I've told people this before in previous conversations. It's a new concept, and so like a lot of the stuff I had been coming up with was kind of like, just me trying to figure out how I want things to sound. And then finally, about 7 or 8 ideas in, I was like, oh, now that sounds like me. And then, of course, the rest started flowing from there.
Yeah, I put on different hats. It's like when I strap on a different guitar, and you know what I'm talking about. Anybody out there that's listening that plays an instrument, you'll understand this because they all have a different voice, and they all kind of make you play and feel differently when you hear that voice.
Yeah.
So you think differently, and you go places that you might not normally go. When I put on my Godin, my nylon string, it's like immediately, I'm playing minor 9 chords. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's very Latin-esque, and I find that a very expressive instrument for not being an electric guitar, which I prefer electric. I mean, it is electrified, but it's still nylon strings, so you're not doing a lot of bending and everything. But
right,
but yeah. So the writing process for me kind of depends on what I'm doing. So if I'm thinking Latin, or when I'm not thinking Latin, I'm thinking Latin. What can I say? But like for this record, my gosh, John, it just. I mean, I just wrote every tune. It was just like, wow, there's one that's killer. The one that has the vocal on it, the title cut, MUEVE Tu CUERPO, I don't even know where that song came from. You ever do that? You ever write a song and you go, man, where did I come up with that?
Yeah, and it's funny because the best stuff is always the stuff that comes the easiest.
That's right.
You just sit there and it's like, wow, that just happened. That's
Yeah.
the best cut on the record.
The first single off of that record was a song called Missing You, that ballad. I don't know if you remember or not, but it was with Nylon. I sat down one night, feeling a little blue, I'll be honest with you, and I wrote that tune in 10 minutes, melody and everything. And my son came downstairs into the studio and he goes, Dad, what is that? I told him, he goes, wow. Well, long story short, that was the first single off the record that Sony put out. And it's very hard, as you know, to get airplay anymore, you know, and it's things don't follow what it used to follow, where you hire a radio promoter and you go to brick and mortar radio stations. You know what I'm saying? Now it's all internet based, and seems like it's harder than easier to get a hit record. I think.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of old school. But in spite of that, in Maryland, that song went to #1 and stayed there for 3 weeks. And I wrote the song, and when I produced it here. It's like, this is a #1 song. I just know it is. And it did go to #1 there, but I didn't go across the board #1. You know what I'm saying with it?
Yeah.
It was their #1 most requested song for 3 weeks and stayed at #1 on their top 40 playlist.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
How are you, like, I know everybody's trying to figure out. Now we've got this new catastrophe that we're all trying to figure out. But
yeah, how are we going to gig? How are we going to go out and play?
I know, but like for like records and putting them out, how do you feel like being in the middle of it? Like, you've got record labels over here and then you've got the internet thing here. How are you finding that you're balancing it?
I can't say that I have figured it out. I mean, I have a routine, you know, as far as trying to promote and everything, but
yeah,
I don't know. Aside from announcing to my fans that, I mean, I've got a pretty good following on Facebook, you know, that I'm doing like a Facebook Live, which I did 2 weeks ago. I'm doing another one this Friday. I don't think that it helps me sell much music.
Right.
You know, I don't think social media really helps me sell much music. And labels, they don't help you sell much music either anymore because they don't want to spend the money. They're not recouping their money. So,
yeah,
you know, unless you're out playing live shows all the time, the labels kind of just go, oh, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's where. Yeah, I think that's where the bread and butter is right now for all of us, is gigging. You put a record out and it's kind of like, you know, it's a snapshot of who you are at that moment, but it's also kind of a glorified business card. Yeah, kind of. To do gigs, really. Yeah. And I was telling my friend Buyani, you know, it would have been nice to have record sales to fall back on. But now with streaming and whatnot, it's like, get 10,000 streams and make a third of a penny, you know? Yeah. I get these things from, there's a company that takes care of all this licensing for, like music that streams into Macy's or whatever. They take care of all the licensing for that, the mechanical license on it. And so I don't know, sometimes I'll get a half a dozen a week. And, you know, I mean, I've got a stack, literally, if I stacked them on the floor, they'd come up, you'd see them. They're sitting next to me. That many envelopes from them. And I got a check the other day, 8 cents. I told my wife, we're in the money now. I told you this music business would pay off. Man. You know, now I've got a couple others from them, but like the most I've ever gotten is like $5-6. I mean, it's a stack, John. I'm not exaggerating, buddy. That high, and it's like, oh, so and so wants to license your music. You don't have to respond to this. Okay, you know. Yeah, my first record under my own name, that came out just before everyone started only doing streaming. like people were still buying records here and there, but there weren't like the family plans where you can just stream everything you want. And that record did pretty good for coming from a bass player that did a fusion record. That did really well. And I even sold like CDs.
Yeah. Good.
Skip ahead 4 years, I put out another record that gets really good reviews and whatnot, but it's all streaming, and it's like tons of streams and, like you said, 8 cents.
Well, and the thing is that, I mean, you know, everybody can go to Spotify. No offense, I'm on there. We have to use the tools that are before us. Certainly don't want to cut your nose off to spite your face, because you're not going to win the battle. But everybody goes there. The latest John record comes out or Denny record comes out, they go there and they can stream it for free. And some people still feel a commitment to support the artist. But the new, and I do sound like an old guy, but the new generation coming up, they don't really understand that. I don't think. I think it's like everything is free. And we have to live.
Yeah.
If I told you what it cost me to do this Latin record, unbelievable amount of money. And really? I'll never see it back, John.
Yeah. Yeah. The free aspect is one thing, but people who are growing up into it, new artists that are like emerging into this type of scene, it's like, I don't know what they're going to do, or if they have the insight to know that it's not right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. I think that insight may not come to some of them till they're living it. And they see an 8-cent check come in the mail and they go, what the hell is this? I mean,
Yeah. And I know a lot of younger artists that I do work with that are really, really good at having, it's like they're forced to diversify. Like everybody's like content, and doing like but it's still not selling their music per se. They're not putting out a record or getting sales off of it. It's like they're trying to figure out how to do things, or they feel like this is how you're supposed to do it. You get your little social media stream going and whatnot, but it's like, I don't know.
And you know what? That's all well and good, but I think, honestly, we're almost past that. I mean, it's becoming passé, and people are already bored. Everybody's got Instagram. Everybody's got Twitter. Everybody's got, well, not everybody. The younger guys have dropped Facebook, a lot of them, and went to Instagram, I guess. But
Instagram and Twitch.
Twitch? What's that? Is that another one?
Oh, yeah. The Gen Zers, I think is what they're all on Twitch now.
Oh, well, see, so how do you hit that market? And then the water, as I always say.
It's TikTok. Sorry, it's TikTok.
Yeah, I know TikTok. Now that I know. I don't know how to use it. I downloaded it. I have a new label that I'm working with called Estro Records. And it's with a good friend of mine, Rick Webb. And and yeah, Rick, and we're talking content also. But one of our girls did a TikTok thing, and I'd never even heard of it. And she had like 400,000 views or something like that. And I'm like, how did you do that? And she says, well, I just did it. I just put it out there and it happened. I went, oh, wow. So, of course, that intrigued me. And I downloaded it, but I don't know really what to do with it, But I started to say that the water is so muddy right now, John, with so many people. Everybody's got a laptop. And, of course, all these television shows that you can be a star and The Voice and all these, it's all kind of fed this monster, if you will, and now there's so many people out there. Everybody's got talent. Everybody can sing. Everybody can play. Well, that's not true. And not everybody can mix a record or record a record properly either, just because you have a laptop and software.
And once you get all these views, like how do you turn that into dollar signs?
Well, and there's the other thing.
Because I work with some people that have artists under them, and Some of them have millions of followers on Instagram. And it is because they've paid for it.
Yes.
They have rich parents that paid for it. But outside of that, I'm not seeing anything.
Well, okay, and they paid for it. They've got all these big numbers, but are they seeing numbers as far as money, monetarily? No.
Exactly, and that's what I can say too about them is there's no experience. Mm-hmm. They don't have any experience. Put them on stage in front of 1,000 people with a band, they're going to fall apart.
Yeah, and does it help them get gigs? You see it helping them get no. So therefore, what's good is that because I get, I've gotten these emails where increase your YouTube views to 50,000. I'm like, yeah, but that's fake. It's like fake friends on Facebook. I have 5,000 friends and I see the same 100 or so, on my page liking things and following me, So what happens to those other 4,900 people? Yeah. Are they even seeing what I'm doing and what I'm putting out,
Yeah. And I know for me going to the live thing, I mean, Denny, before this apocalypse happened, I mean, I was booked solid for like the next, at least up till the end of this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
like gigging multiple gigs every week. Some weeks I'm gigging 4 to 5 times a week.
I know you're busy, man. I see some of the things you post. I know you stay busy as you should. But now, yeah, what are we going to do? I mean, I lost a few gigs because of it. And fortunately, I'm sitting here in my studio. I've got 2 projects I'll be producing coming up. So that's decent income for me, but I'd rather be out performing,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll produce, but I love performing. You know that. I love playing.
I've got to do some remote sessions that have, that have come out of the blue, which has been nice.
Yeah.
But still, gigging for me was 90% of it.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, now that I have nothing, I'm not too busy. I'm writing a new record finally, which is what I've been wanting to do.
That's good, and that's what happened with me. A friend of mine called me and he goes, I know what you can do with all this time. I said, all right, Danny, tell me what to do with all my time. He says, why don't you do that Christmas record you've been talking about for 20 years? And I went,
yeah,
that's a good idea. So that very second, he instilled that and I committed to it and I'm half done, man, with it, So that's what we have to do. I mean, when you love this as much as guys like us do, you keep moving forward. You don't let a bump in the road frustrate you so you're sitting around watching soap operas and eating bonbons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm down here in the studio every day, all day and into the evening,
Yeah.
So, and if I'm not working on the record, I'm practicing still. I've been playing a long time. I still practice. I know you do too. That's what we do. We love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a toy I got to show you later.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Show toys on here?
Yeah. Depends.
Yeah. No. Those are upstairs. Hey,
like
batteries are dead anyway, so.
Right on. So what are you working on these days as far as practicing?
John, when you've played as long as we have, sometimes you got to go back to the basics and take a look at things that, dang, I forgot about that. About that. I'm just hitting, it may sound funny, I'm hitting pentatonics really hard right now. And down, up, down, up and down, up and down the neck, just because, I mean, it's not that I don't know my pentatonics everywhere, I do, but it's just, that's just what I'm working on, and working on, I'm always working on odd harmonization, that. So
yeah.
I love to reharmonize things, which is what I've been doing for this Christmas record. And I've got a student, I always work with my students on that too, where you take a melody and reharmonize it,
Yeah.
And you can create an entirely different mood for the song.
Sure.
I love doing that. I love the magic of harmony. I love that because.
Yeah, sometimes my best practicing for me is when I can start and really strip everything down. Just go back to the basics, really, out of time and slow.
Yep.
Focus on playing whatever it is I'm playing very clearly.
Yep.
And once that gets to time, when I've been put in that frame of mind for so long, when I switch it to time, it feels so much better. Things fall into place. I'm not just flailing all around like I'm drowning.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's, next week I'll be reviewing my melodic minors or something. It's like, I don't know. I just sit and practice and play. That's how you come up with songs too. Yeah, I'll sit down and just start practicing and playing, and when you dial in a tone that just drives you nuts, you go, oh yeah. And start flowing, and I grab the iPhone and.
Yeah, what amp are you using right now? What's your preferred amp?
Oh, let me show you these guys here. Have you seen these?
Yeah, I have seen them. Oh, well, the last time you only had like model number 2.
I've got that's model number 1. That's the prototype serial number 1. And then that's number 2. That's the 100 watt. And that's the 50. I'm currently playing through the 50. And then I've also got my VVT, which I absolutely love that amp. You remember that little X40 VVT? I've got it bagged up right now because I take it out and use it all the time. But not lately, though.
Yeah. Seriously.
And I've got 2 of those. I've got another one sitting over there. And
no, you're pretty great at finding good tone. That's for sure.
Thanks, John. I actually go around and do clinics now. I've gone to a few universities and done clinics on how to achieve the tone. And I'm thinking about doing something like what we're doing, a live stream, and just kind of break it into, 4 or 5 sections. I've got an outline. And
yeah.
But I do appreciate you saying that. It's I did that live stream 2 weeks ago. And if you're not hip to it, you know about this. So you can either edit this out or keep it. But there's an app called Dolby On, like as in Dolby, the noise reduction.
Yeah.
And for iPhones, and I downloaded that app, and what it does is for a live stream or for recording on your phone, it broadens the bandwidth and changes the phone into a much more, I won't use the word amazing, but it really is amazing by comparison.
Right.
And it's a free app. Excuse me. And when I streamed with that, I had more people saying, oh my gosh, I sat here in front of my big screen TV with the surround sound on. It sounded like you were in the room and so clear. And all I was doing was had an iPhone on a tripod using the microphone there, but through their app.
Right.
And I went back and listened to the playback, and it made a massive difference in the depth of the frequency response.
That's cool. Are you going to be using it this Friday?
I am. I will be. Yeah.
There's some other services that a friend of mine was using where you can tip through it, but when she's streaming on it, I don't know how it works. I think what it does is it breaks the stream into other platforms. So she's streaming like Facebook, and she's streaming on YouTube and a bunch of other platforms all at once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, to be able to stream on you, do that, that's pretty cool. Well, if you find out what that is, let me know.
I'll look into it because I've been wanting to do it more. Because the last time I did a little live stream thing on Facebook, just to, hang out with friends and noodle in front of friends. But in this situation, depending on how long it goes on for, we got to start figuring out how we're going to do it correctly. Do it right.
It's forcing us to. What is that saying? Necessity is the nature of invention.
Mother of invention.
Yeah. And so it's kind of forcing us to rethink what we're doing. We have to, or we're going to not, we're going to be working at Kroger. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
right.
We study for 40 or 50 years to go do something else. This is what we're supposed to do.
And hopefully when this is all said and done too, the technology then will be better than it was before this. So we can have more of a multifaceted way. We can go out and play live, or we can do these awesome live streams and this, that, and the other. But speaking of the live stuff, tell me about the cats you're playing with in your band.
I've got some guys that are with me. I've been doing a lot of different things, John. You know what? It's good. I think it's good for us to move around some. You know what I mean? Play with other musicians, and I am doing a new project called the JVM Collective, and that is with Roy Vogt on bass and Tom Muller on drums, and he doesn't play a standard kit. Tom's an unusual and talented player that uses cajon for a snare, and he's got congas and djembes for toms, and he does it with his hands. It's a very world sounding thing.
I saw you guys play at NAMM a couple of years ago. That was pretty tight. You guys sounded great.
Thank you. Well, the record is finally done. Of course, it gets done, and here we are. Now,
here we are.
We were getting ready to pitch it to labels and things. And it's kind of like nobody really cares right now, I don't think. We just want to get through it. They're not even there to listen to it. So, so we're still making progress on websites and things that you try to do to get prepared. But, our goal was to be touring with this summer and maybe hit Europe with it this coming fall. And at this point, that's probably not going to even be thought of. So,
I know Roy thought very highly of that record, that whole project.
Yeah, I'm anxious. I want you to come out here to the studio and hear it.
Yeah, I really liked the writing. It was just all beautiful. It was just pretty.
Thank you.
It wasn't, hey, look at me record. It's just three great musicians that are just putting out really good music, as it should be.
Thanks. I think it's important, John, to make things accessible, for the common listener and not just musicians.
Which is kind of what I'm doing on my next record.
Good.
There's going to be vocals on it.
Good.
I've made my mark in the fusion bass world. I don't feel like my head's somewhere else right now. They'll still be playing on it, but not like, well, maybe there will be over the top. I don't know, but it's definitely going to be different.
Well, I'm a huge Jeff Beck fan. I love Jeff because he seems to be able to ride the fence of outside and cool, but accessible at the same time. You know what I mean? And you can't argue with the success of what he's had, as a player, that's for sure. So I'm a huge fan of that. There are other players I'll leave unnamed that are hard to listen to. It is hard to, even as a musician, after 2 or 3 songs, you go, that's pretty cool, but I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
I won't tell you who I walked out on. Me and Jeffrey Scott Wills.
I remember.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
I was like, I'm ready.
Well, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Talk about branding, because that's an important topic for me too, about putting who you are as like your product. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, a couple of things, John. I've had this conversation recently with a fairly new friend of mine that played with some big names in LA and now lives here, and he's a great player, or he wouldn't play with these names, but outside that circle, no one knows who he is,
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the point I'm trying to get at is I've always stayed pretty true to who I am, as far as trusting that was going to become my brand. I never wanted to make records for radio, or if they listen to this, they'll be mad at me now. But I mean, I'm conscious of it, but I'm not going to sit there and make a record that's not me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's important for any young players that's listening. It's really important to stay true to who you are and what you love. If you love playing jazz, don't go become a country player or something because you think, oh, I'll get famous faster if I do that, or whatever. Stay true to who you are, and I think the brand will. You have. That's how you build the brand. People see through that, John. They see what you really are.
I mentioned this on another one of these talks, a previous talk, and for me, when I came to town, the consensus was, the advice was from everybody, that you have to get there and you have to play with everybody that you can, which I think is true to an extent. But I was doing these things that weren't fitting who I was as a musician.
Yeah.
And you could tell when I would play. You could hear it.
Yeah.
And I could feel that I wasn't comfortable. And people would look around at who I'd be playing with and be like, it was making me, I'm a bass player here, and it seemed like I was down here. And then finally, after so many years, I was like, you know what, this whole thing ain't working like this. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to write the record that I want to put out. And once I put that record out, everybody in town was like, wow, how long have you been here? And I'm like, well, I've been here for 14 years.
Yeah.
And things didn't really turn around for me until I not only concentrated, but really thought, this is who I am. This is my branding. I'm going to take these kinds of gigs that cater to my strengths. Now, in the practice room, I'll practice my weaknesses, but when I'm playing, I want to be doing what I really enjoy. Because when you're doing what you enjoy, people see that.
They do, and it is important. Again, this comment's more for the young players, the guys. I mean, when I was learning, I was playing live gigs at 14. Mm-hmm. I did my first concert with my band at 14 years old. I actually have it on a cassette. You know what a cassette is, Don?
Yeah.
But I would take. At that time, I'd take every gig I could take because I grew up in Indiana in a small town, so there wasn't a lot of jazz happening, even though I was listening to it and writing instrumental music when I was 12. That's when I started writing instrumental music. I've always had a passion for it. Even though I sing, I still love that. And but I would take every gig. If they would have me, I'd take it. Can I tell you a story?
Tell it.
I'll never forget that when this guy was a fiddle player, called me, and he says, hey, this is so-and-so. He goes, I need a guitar player for Friday night for a gig. I said, okay, what kind of music is it? And I was, 20 years old or something. He says, well, it's Cajun and some fiddle music and some country and some rock. I went, okay, sure, I'm available. I didn't know what Cajun music even was. And
right.
I said, well, what are some of the tunes? Oh, Black Mountain Rag and blah, blah, blah. Devil Went Down to Georgia. I went, okay. So I went up and played and did it. And that night after the gig, I did my homework. This just didn't happen in 3 days' time. I did a little bit of homework. I had a couple weeks. And he came up, he goes, you want to join the band? Really loved what you did. And I went, sure. So, we became kind of a big thing in northern Indiana, opening for Glenn Campbell and all these people that came to town. And,
that's awesome.
But, I would take that gig. And, of course, I will tell you this. So every time I would take a country gig or anything else other than jazz, everybody would go, you're not a traditional country sounding guy. There, I don't know if I like that. And some of them did like it, some of them didn't. Mm-hmm. But I just couldn't. That was my calling. That's what was in me. Just like I was talking about a minute ago. So the branding thing. All you got to do is look inside and find what you really love to play, and that's what you should be doing. And then you build the brand from there. You have to think. It is still a business. You know, and musicians suck at business.
Yes, it's so true.
I've been very blessed. I've been very fortunate. I've had people cross my paths that have heard what I'm doing, got me the record deal. Michael Morick is my friend. Michael, you've met him. Michael heard my demo and believed in me, and had me a record deal in New York within a month after hearing the demo. This was years ago. You were just a little guy, John.
Just a youngin'.
Yeah, just a youngin'. And I did 5 records with that label, out of New York.
Yeah.
So it's, John, there's no formula. I know you know this.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can do is stay true to who you are and do what you love and work hard. You got to work hard. It's not just going to magically happen.
It's funny too, like people wouldn't believe this, but I had big time self-confidence issues, as a lot of musicians, but it really kept me back. Mm-hmm. And once I decided to put out a record and become a leader, it changed me, man.
Yeah.
Situations that I would be in where I was terrified before don't faze me in the least. And it's nice because I can concentrate on playing.
Right.
Because before I really couldn't,
Yeah, I get it because you're too nervous about doing the gig right,
Exactly. Now I'm in a place because of the branding thing that people are calling me for my thing.
Isn't that great?
And that's a totally different place to be because they're not calling you, hey, can you sound like so-and-so? It's more like they're calling me, hey, do your thing on this. Here's the track.
That's awesome.
Or whatever, the gig or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's great. It's, I don't know. Like I said, it's just a lot of hard work and staying true to who you are. And but when you're young, you need to take every gig you can because that's how you build who you are. That's how you learn.
I think for me, it was just putting myself in situations I knew musically I didn't want to be in, but since everyone told me I had to do it, I did it anyway, and it never worked out well. I think coupled that with the self-confidence issues at the time did not go well for me.
Well, I see that because if you're walking into do a country session and you're not a country player and you already have self-confidence issues, you could be in trouble.
and now I've done I've done those sessions now, and it's easy, it's fun to just hang out and create and not hear the buzz of nerves and stuff behind you.
Right.
Playing live too, and it's just interesting how because session players or guys who are trying to be session players in town, they're not really focusing too much on their art. The focus is different. And when you become an artist and focus on your art, there's a freedom to it that's hard to explain.
Absolutely right. And it is 2 different paths. There's a good friend of mine here in Nashville that this guy can play. Well, Mel Deal. You know Mel? You know Mel, right? Guitar player? Maybe not. But, but Mel, a fantastic player. And the guy can play the real book backwards and forwards with a blindfold on and play any song in there in any key. He's just like one of these guys, right?
Yeah.
So we're hanging out one afternoon, and I said, man, I'm jealous of that you can do that. He goes, now, why would you be jealous of that? He goes, how many records do you have out of original music? And he says, I have none. I barely write. I believe that's what he said. If he listens to this, I want to get the quote right, but I believe that's what he said. I know the other part he did say, he goes, I don't know why you would feel that way. You've accomplished people embracing and accepting your original music, and you've got all these records out full of your music. He said, I can just play other people's music. And but there's not a right or wrong in that story.
But are you finding that the sidemen thing is becoming less and less? You're not seeing too many guys wanting to take that route anymore because the scene has changed. The way records are done are a little different now. People already go in with a full band. You can record at your house. You don't have to hire a musician per se. Do you think the session musician and the artists are starting to more art, less session, vice versa?
I don't know. I think session musicians, I still think it's a separate entity because just because you're a great session musician doesn't mean you're an artist, and vice versa. that's what makes an artist. That's why do you think they hire the musicians they hire to back them up? You know, um, they do what they do. They offer art and a sound and a signature that a session musician sometimes can't find because they play everything as written and nearly perfect. You know, a lot of classically trained musicians, I find, you know, they can play everything on paper, but you ask them to play a solo and they're looking at you like
not happening.
You know, it's not happening. And I had that happen here, you know, with a very well-known cellist, and I had left an open position, open spot. And he said, well, what's happening here? I said, that's you, it's solo. He goes, well, I don't do that. Oh, okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's, you know, it's just a broad spectrum, and you have to find your path. I don't know how I got on all this. I guess you asked about branding, but it's kind of parallel branding. Whether you're going to brand yourself as a session musician, I never really had the desire to go just do a session musician. I didn't want to become or be a road guy. And again, there's not anything wrong with that. It's a great living. But what happens when the artist is done and they retire? What happens when they decide they want a younger looking band on stage and you've been with them 20 years and you're like, who's going to hire me now?
We know plenty of those stories.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And I don't, that is not a negative. I have great respect for those guys.
I think for me too, I still do the session sideman stuff, but I still have the art world, you know, over here.
Yeah.
And not knowing that I don't have to be a slave to somebody else's success.
Right.
Is also a freeing thing. Because I can't tell you how many times I hear musicians say, oh, I hope the artist I'm working with makes it, or I hope this song gets a hit, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, dude, even if they do, they don't have to take you with them.
Yeah, they don't.
You know, it's, you know, you got to take care of your own stuff, you know. It's
I remember when I came to this town, I went on 3 auditions to do that, to be a player. And after I did the 3rd one, I came home and told my wife, I said, you know what? I don't want to do that. First off, I wanted a family. I wanted kids. I didn't want to be gone all the time. And second of all, I had this nagging urge to create my own music. That's all I've ever wanted to do, is write my own stuff. And I told her, I said, I won't be traveling or leaving unless it's for me. And that's the day I made the commitment, put my fist down and said, that's it. I'm going to start pursuing my career as an artist and a player. And that's what I did. So, and I don't regret it one bit. You know, that my friend I mentioned a little while ago that played for some big names out there was making massive dollars on these.
And that
major tour.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's easy to fall into those massive dollars. And you know just as well as I do that when you're playing someone else's music, there's no guarantee as to how long that's going to last. You know, it's
not only for their career, but they may, like I said earlier, they may come in and go, you know what, I don't like your look anymore, or I don't. So-and-so's got a buddy that I really want him to play now, so you're fired. But I mean, that's life too. I mean, that can happen at any job, but you know, when you're self-employed, it's a little scarier. There's something about that because you can't just go to another company and apply.
Right.
You know, to go to work. You know, you can, but you're going to be miserable.
Yeah. So I ask this too a lot of times for people, like, so we know the struggles and we know how awesome it can be when we're playing on stage. What keeps you going? What keeps you coming back?
I tell you what, John, that's a great question. And when music, oh my gosh, I got so many answers. I don't know which one to give you. When, you know, here's a prime example. 2 days ago, I was flipping channels down here, and on MPT was Andre Bocelli, and he was in the Duomo in Italy. completely nobody there. And he's standing on the steps of this church singing Amazing Grace. I'm going to send you that video. It's on YouTube. And I sat here with tears in my eyes. And when music can move you like that, and you feel that, you understand it, that's what keeps me coming back. I can come down here in the studio. I can be in the worst mood, maybe have a headache, whatever. I plug in, dial up my tone, and start playing. And all of a sudden, I'm happy again. It's like I feel like I'm 18 years old when I first got my first boogie and my first Les Paul, and I plugged in, and it was never been the same since. So I'm driven by it.
Yeah,
it moved. It's an emotional thing for me.
It is. It's that combination of it's like for artists, especially like you and I, there seems to be this direct line from what we're hearing to the emotional centers in our hearts of our brain, our hearts and those parts. It's like a direct line,
Absolutely. I'm going to give you one more example, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, I got a text from somebody I don't even know via a good friend of mine. She sent it to me. She said, "This is my brother who works at a hospital. I think it was in Indianapolis or something. And he knew that she knew me. And he said, please pass this on to him that I'm working extra long hours through the night and that his music is what's getting me through." So when you hear things like that, and I could tell you 20 more stories, like that I get emails, I get a text or a Facebook post that makes you go, this is why I do it.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think, man, all that work I put into that, whatever they're listening to, here it is, pays off. And it's funny because, we do these records and it takes a long time to produce it and put it out. 6 months later or something like that, people are like singing your praises, and it's like, oh man, that's took a long time to get there, but it's for me too, the emotional aspect, being on stage playing with cats that we all respect each other, everyone's listening, the audience is going crazy, they're loving what you're doing. It's the give and take kind of thing that just keeps me going back. That's why gigging. That's why I'm really missing the gigging.
I know. There's nothing like plugging in and playing with players. There's not. I mean, you'd ask me about players. Of course, Kenny's there. They're still with me. And
I love Kenny.
I love Kenny too. But I've moved around on. Keith is still playing Kenyon, and sometimes Ray still plays. Or I use different drummers when Ray's busy. But Glenn Karuba, all those guys that are great players. But I'm into kind of doing a trio thing now too, where it's not like our trio was, where we're doing my smooth jazz and jazz stuff, and a lot of Wes Montgomery things, and I'm just doing it as a trio. And man, I'm having more fun doing that.
Yeah.
I love it. So
I was just about to start booking my quartet again, and then all this, the virus happened.
I know.
And I had I still have the cats in the band, but they're all just stellar musicians. But the other thing too is they're younger and they're really hungry for playing and getting out there. They're all phenomenal musicians. I always try to get cats to play with me that I feel are better than I am.
That's wise advice. That's it. And you know what? They're probably looking at the same thing. They probably think you hung the moon, man, and you're an awesome player, and they can learn from you. And it makes you pull yourself up,
Yeah, for sure.
So it's always good advice to do that.
Any last thoughts, advice you want to give to anybody that would be listening?
Just stay true to who you tell young players. You know, I was teaching at university here for a while, you know, and I would say that to them often. Stay true to who you are. You know, don't let somebody sway you into doing something you don't enjoy doing in anything. But, you know, as a musician, I think God has given each of us our little gift. And, you know, if you got a voice that needs to be heard, then stay true to it.
Yep. And as soon as all this virus stuff is done, who knows how long that'll be, we got to start working together again.
I want you to come out and hear a little bit of this new trio record, and we can sit and have lots of coffee and
definitely.
We definitely need to do something together. We should be doing something together. There's no doubt.
Yeah. We got that history. We've played together long enough. We should be playing
absolutely
more. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But all right, DJ. Been real.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out, dude.
High five, man.
Boom.
Okay, yeah.
So,
all right.
All right.
We touched. Oh no, man.
No.